See the world through rose-colored glasses?
They're more ruby than rose. You know, the suck part, though, is the green laser is almost invisible in these glasses, so I really don't know what I'm looking at at all.
So they actually started making ones with laser pointers with the green in it. I was looking at, presenting remotes with green lasers as opposed to the red.
The green ones are way better, I think.
Oh, they are. They're easy to see it, but I can't find ones that are green that have the remote built in.
There it is.
I will, I actually borrowed one of these from Egypt. It's a Logitech R800. I borrowed one at DerbyCon, and then I bought one right after.
Shine it on this wall for me, would you? It's not too bad, yeah. I got more powerful greens.
For a small room, they're fine. For a big room, all of them are working.
But it is recording, my friend, and I'm going to step out over there. Just come get you whatever you're talking about.
Here, 1 second. If I... Is there a way to... Oh, that's a little too romantic. I guess I'm doing this with the lights on.
Bow, chicka, bow, bow.
I can't help but notice that none of you like me because you're all way back there.
Brown chicken, brown cow.
Woo!
I prefer to do it with the lights on.
I thank you for the compliment, sir. I'd like to point out that he is the only person sitting next to a woman, and he's the one that wants the lights on.
You can't see you. You can't see this.
Can you see what the...
Yeah.
Hey, I think that might be too dark for everything. But is it a lot friendlier?
I mean, we can kind of see it there. I mean, he's just going to be out of frame a lot of the time.
You can leave the lights on. I mean, you can't see anything on the video without the lights.
Well, I mean, the video's not very important. It's just supposed to what you're showing on the screen, right?
Yeah, sure.
He loves to see himself on TV.
Dude, I dance.
Well, you're in frame right now.
All right.
And you can just move this if you really want.
Frame? Am I still in frame?
No.
Okay, so I have to...
Yeah.
All right, so I can dance from here
Stuff like that.
to here. All right, everybody stand up. We're going to do the Macarena. Somebody start singing. You're in the suit. Go. Let's fix that.
Oh, I thought we were going to start saying.
Middle part.
I'm going to ruin my trademark red sunglass look because it's actually dark enough in here that my head doesn't hurt anymore, so sweet. Who am I? Why do all of you care?
You don't.
I'm an asshole. I like to do things my own way, and yeah, that's, my own.
That's a solid introduction.
I really hate all this stuff. That's why I titled this slide Narcissus. I've done some stuff. I'm on a lot of teams. I do a lot of Linux stuff because I think it's a lot of fun, and that's the only reason I do it, so whatever. Oh, bottom one's really important. I have a 2-month-old son at home, so thank you, honey, for letting me come out to this. What's great is since Adrian's awesome, she will literally see that tonight, so brownie points. All right, Pentoo, did you just hear of us today?
No.
Thank God, because I was here last year, and you all should know what this is, okay? We've got all kinds of fun stuff running on Pentoo, and so I'm here just to tell you a little bit about Pentoo, why it's fun, and why it's good. So, basically, I'm here to talk about how Kali, Backtrack, Wapik, Software, whatever you use. I actually saw 2 people using Backbox today for the first time. I didn't actually realize they had users, so that was awesome. But seriously, there's more than one Linux distro out there, and try one of them. I'm obviously going to make a case for mine, but try one of them, please. Okay? There's dozens of pen testing distros out there. There's hundreds, there's thousands of real Linux distros. Try one, because we all spend a lot of time on this, and maybe what we're doing is something that you like. Maybe it's a total waste of your time, and you'll move right back off of it, and that's fine. But seriously, try it. Okay? Trust me, you'll never know what you like until you just really stop there. Timeline. Street cred. I have been developing Pentoo since before Backtrack existed, and I am still developing Pentoo after Backtrack is gone. Woo! Thank you. I'm super proud. Yeah, seriously. Okay. Why did we start Pentoo? There was no general pen testing distribution at all. There were no real up-to-date tools for everything. I gotta move this so I can actually see what the hell I'm talking about. And the most important reason we founded Pentoo is because Gentoo rules. Woo! Yes. Yes, indeed. It's just like Nano versus Vi, or Emacs versus Vi, if you're one of those weird people. Okay? We started this because all of us were using Gentoo, and that's what we love, and that's what we're used to, and that's what we built. Okay? Emerge. It's an emerging distro. As in right now, my box is building it at home. Okay? 2005 was founded by a guy named Gremlin, great guy. He turned over the reins to me because he got a new job and a kid and started doing way more pen testing. And so now he just kind of tells me what to do and I pull all the strings. Started with the GNOME window manager. Sweet. I love conferences where people all throw things. Lightweight distribution, less than 100 megs of RAM at idle. The whole idea is that it's supposed to be doing what you tell it to do and not just a bunch of fancy stuff that's wasting your time and resources. Okay? Up-to-date system and tools, secure distribution by default. We want to have the best of the best, everything we can, but not every tool under the sun. Okay? And then community is probably our #1 focus with Pentoo. Everything is open. Everything is designed around what people tell us they want. I have no idea how to web app pen test. I know that like you take the little query box and you put an apostrophe in it and you hit enter and then like people give you money. I don't understand it. I don't know how to do it. But we have those tools because people say, hey, I do this for a living and I really need this tool. And so we do that. Okay? Open source zealots, forums, bug trackers, everything is live, everything's available. The whole development team sits in the same IRC channel as all of the users do, and we sit around and we chat about it. We talk about what we're doing, we talk about the pen tests we're on, we talk about the newest tools that are out there, whether they're worth a damn. Who here uses ZMap? Yeah, that's exactly the response I was expecting. It's really cool, I'm told. When I tested it, it didn't seem to be so cool, and it didn't actually compile until it had like quite a few fixes. And we decided that maybe we wait for another release cycle for it to, work. Pentoo is an overlay for Gentoo. Okay? What that means is that everything in Gentoo is given to us for free. And it means that everything in Pentoo works for Gentoo. So if you're already a Gentoo user, you can literally just add in our repository. You get the benefit of everything we have without changing anything. But if you're a Pentoo user, you get all of the stuff that Gentoo has for free. Okay? The development team for Pentoo consists of approximately 3 people at any given time. There's myself, there's Bolshevik, and that is totally not how you pronounce it. There's no actual vowels in his name. Russian. His name is Anton. We'll go with Anton. Anton, tell me how to pronounce that someday. Right? There's 2 of us, and then there's a rotating 3rd person. By the time we get somebody that's really helping out, they just kind of disappear, fall off the face of the planet, and then the next dude comes up and helps out a little bit. Okay, there's a whopping 3 developers. Gentoo has 250. I don't have to update Wireshark. It's taken care of for me. I don't have to update libpcap, but every once in a while I throw in a cool patch for it that gives us some capability that you didn't have before. Okay? It saves a huge amount of development time to be 100% compatible with upstream, as opposed to other distributions that have right on their website, don't add the Debian repos because it will break your installation of I don't know what was
He just
something
added
in my
Debian.
throat. Weird.
He just added
Auto-scrambled root passwords by default, packs and hardened. This actually came about because I was sitting around at ShmooCon watching people getting their boxes popped due to the latest Wireshark exploit. And as funny as that was, I decided that never again would I see that on my system. So we went through and we redid everything. Instead of using a default Linux install, we did a full hardened Linux install, tuned all the tools to work. You can still do all your password cracking, GPU cracking, cool binary spinning graphical garbage that no one really uses. But it's all hardened now. So when an exploit comes by, kernel detects buffer overflow, things like that, and it just drops the package. Nothing happens. Very cool. Okay, hardened by default, full railroad, stack smashing protection, position independent code. If you don't know what all this stuff is, please look it up because I'm not nearly elite enough to explain most of it. But it's really great. The real benefit to the user from this, aside from just it works better and you can't get owned, is things really don't crash. Because all the hardening makes sure that all these basic bugs are taken care of. It either compiles and runs fine, or it don't even compile anymore. So Michael Osman did an SDR talk, and he did an SDR class, and he was rewriting it for Pentoo, because I put in a whole bunch of stuff for him for the HackRF and the RTL SDR and things like that. And he lights me up on IRC. He's like, man, I've got this demo that I used to do with backtracking. It's not working. So I write this loop, and I just unbound the loop, and I let it chew up 100% of the CPU resources, and it crashes. I'm like, okay, that's an interesting demo. He's like, yeah, I'm trying to teach people that you can't just do that, but it doesn't crash on Pentoo. It just lights the CPU to 100 and then keeps going, and then I hit Control-C and it stops. I'm like, okay, what would you like me to do? You want me to make it crash for you? I'm not sure I can. He's like, well, I guess I'll just have to tell them to run HTOP and see that it was a bad idea. Like, yeah, that works. Okay. Okay. All of this stuff is available. It is in the default ISOs. I am actually building unhardened ISOs for distribution as well, for when you're doing things like exploit development, where it doesn't make sense to have to fight that hardening stuff on your own system that you're not going to have to fight on the target system. For a user, for an install, for a penetration tester, highly recommend the hardened install. For the I'm trying to develop exploits, that's what the default stuff's for. Although if you really want to try your hand and you think you're awesome, try to do exploit development on the hardened install, and if you're good at it, then call HD Moore and get a job, because he will hire you in a minute. We focus on making things as fast as possible. Again, cut down on things that are being used that don't need to fire up. Lightweight things, optimized for your system. Again, just nerdy things that really excite me. I love compression. I love seeing how much compression I can get, but not just that, how quickly can it decompress. So I spent all kinds of hours testing and found ways to make the ISO as small as possible so you're reading less off of your drive, but it decompresses very quickly, runs very quickly, everything is as fast as possible, right? Lightweight window managers, I like XFCE. It's GNOME compatible, except it doesn't suck. Doesn't require systemd. Thank you. And Leonard, I hate you. Yeah, so conserve your resources, use what you want to actually use. Okay? I was here last year, so hopefully you all know that Pentoo is alive and kicking. Rolling releases, installed users are getting hundreds of updates right now. Just constant. We actually have a whole bunch of ISOs and CDs downstairs for use in pen tests. Whether you want to use it for the CTF or the wireless CTF, it's available. And there is a full binary repository of updates, thanks to our good friends over at Interrail, that is just ridiculously fast. And yeah, so you can get an older ISO and have it updated in a few minutes at this point. Last RC was at DEF CON. Next RC is soon. I promised all of my users that I would fix 2 bugs, and then I release RC2. I fixed 1 bug of those 2. I mean, I fixed like 100 bugs, but I just that one nagging little bug. And if any of you really like scripting and NVIDIA and ATI binary drivers, then please see me after class, and you can totally help me with this because I hate it. Historically, we've released a stable ISO every 2 or 3 years. Under my leadership, that has dwindled slightly. I release a lot more ISOs, but I don't actually call anything stable unless I think it's stable. And I have a very, very high bar. You might notice that some of my competitors have released, I think it's 6 final releases since their initial release. 1.0, 1.0.1, so on and so forth. You may as well just call that shit beta at that point. I mean, if you're releasing a new ISO every 3 days, you probably shouldn't call that first one final. What's new? Everything, every day. Cutting edge, kernel, Wi-Fi, video drivers, all the latest password crackers are up to date. I actually get at least once a week some tool opening a bug saying, why don't you have John the Ripper 1.8? Because there's no jumbo patch and that makes it worthless. So Magnum, seriously, do on that, please. Hashcat, Crypto Haze, all of these things as up to date as humanly possible. That's the goal. Ubertooth tools, GNU Radio, all the USRP stuff, all the software-defined radio stuff has been really exciting for me because I've been a Wi-Fi guy for so long and need a new toy. So I started doing all the software-defined radio stuff, and that's been really exciting recently. In the last week, and I have to read this, libpcap, Knacker, which is transparent NAC bypass. Until recently, nobody's actually put that into Linux distributions, so I'm trying to make it completely transparent NAC bypass, as well as bypass things like MDM agents and stuff like that, transparently using your laptop as a bridge. You'll let the user authenticate, and then you get to be on the network pretending to be that. That's been a lot of fun. DNS Recon, Metasploit updates, Armitage updates, Wireshark, because they update like before every hacker convention. I didn't actually think that this one qualified until like Wednesday when they've released a whole bunch of exploits in a new version. Okay? What's really different about this isn't what I have or don't have. It's the choices that you get. Okay? Everything is built the way I want it to be built. But you have the choice of what actually ends up on your system, how it is configured on your system, or you can have no choices at all and you can just take whatever I give you, just like every other binary Linux distribution out there. So every line of attack is optional. If you only do wireless pen tests, you can drop all the rest of the tools off. There's much less to keep updated. There's much less of an attack surface on your device. There's much less hard drive space that you're wasting. If you do everything, you can leave everything on there. We actually have full lines of tools that we don't include in the default release because, frankly, there's like 6 dudes that use them. It tends to be that Anton or I is one of the dudes that uses them, and that's why we have them. But they're there because it's useful. Okay? Leading edge and bleeding edge options, my very favorite thing in the world. You can actually have what we call a stable system where we test everything, we make sure it's all up to date as much as possible. But a lot of projects like Metasploit, for instance, they update daily. They update several times a day. SET, Social Engineering Toolkit, actually has a robo commit every 3 hours to change their signature to antivirus. I had to just shake Dave's hand for that. I mean, it was awesome. And if you look at the commit logs, there's thousands of commits, and they're all the exact same thing every 3 hours of him updating it so that it's invisible all the time. If you want that, you switch to the bleeding edge profile, and it will actually pull Metasploit, Aircrack, SET, whatever it is, directly from their version control repository, whether it's Subversion or Git or whatever it is. It'll pull those live, installing the latest version so that you have it and it works. Obviously, the reason they call it bleeding edge is because once you get past that leading edge of the knife, sometimes you get cut. Sometimes somebody makes a bad commit, breaks the tool. But we also have everything slotted, which means you can have the stable version installed and the bleeding edge version at the same time, so you can always revert back to using the stable one if you find yourself on a pen test with a broken copy of Metasploit, because they've certainly never screwed up. Fully open source development is probably my favorite thing about this. I'm a major open source zealot. I gave a talk at DerbyCon 2 years ago just about how to give back into the open source community, because so many people, they get everything, and they're like, wow, this is cool, and then they go and they work on something, and they're like, well, it's not quite good enough to share yet. Yes, it is. Share. We want to share all of this stuff, because maybe you'll get halfway to a really awesome tool, and some other dude's going to help you finish it because he knows the part that you were struggling with. Which, again, if you really like scripting and binary drivers, I could use some help. Perceived negatives of Pentoo, I'm not elite enough. Updating takes too long. I'd rather spend my time hacking than compiling. The truth of this is we all started somewhere. Not everybody started off as an incredible Linux user born to command line. I was born with a silver pseudo in my mouth, but Gentoo is very well documented. Okay? It's so well documented that first several releases of Ubuntu, almost all of their documentation was literally a link to Gentoo wiki. Okay? I mean, it was absolutely hilarious. You'll learn more about Linux every day that you use this, and people will be wishing they were as awesome as you if you spend the time to actually learn this. It is not a huge learning curve, but it is totally a learning curve, so don't think you're walking into this as a complete noob and you're not going to have to try, because I promise you will have to try. Okay? Binary packages have been available for the last few months. Everything is up to date. Everything is running 4 times a day at this point. 10 gigabyte per second mirror thanks to Interrail. I actually met Chris at this last year. He just kind of walked up to me after talking, like, dude, you want a free mirror? Like, yeah, maybe a miss. Like, 10 gigs a second? Yeah, sign me up! So we actually have the fastest mirrors in the industry. Every other Linux distro doesn't come even close to the bandwidth of the one mirror that he's providing me. He's providing me 2, and then I have another one in England, and I'm working on one in Australia. Okay? Binaries are all available. Fully customized users can do whatever they want. But if you don't customize things, you get the binaries right away, quick. You don't have to compile anything. You don't have to do anything. So essentially, if you're using a Debian-based distro or an Ubuntu-based distro or whatever it is, something binary, by default, you're going to get whatever that package manager wants. The guy who makes the package chooses which features are enabled for you, and you're going to like that. If you don't like that, your options are okay, that's the whole list. That's all your options. You cannot do anything about it. Okay? With Gentoo, and especially with Pentoo, I am offering you binary packages to the way I feel the system runs best. If you decide that IPv6 is a waste and you don't need that on your distro, you can just clear all that stuff out. The things that need to be rebuilt by you will be rebuilt by you. Everything else comes straight down as a binary, and you get the benefit of both. You can customize what you want, and you get the latest stuff of what you didn't need to customize straight from us. Okay? I'm not slacking off. My code is compiling. This is our new build server. I removed all the blue LED fans because I'm not a freaking gamer, but it still has 32 cores, and so eventually you get pretty quick binary updates. I used to say 32-bit support is coming soon. We finally got that finished. All kinds of ridiculous troubles with 32-bit because even the kernel devs don't freaking test that shit anymore. Full ARM support is actually building right now. I have 2 or 3 different devices at home that are basically cell phone developer kits, and I have been rocking out some really awesome stages on those. So pretty soon you will be able to run Pentoo on your cell phone if you are freaky. And boy, is it cool. OpenBTS if you want to run your own cell phone tower. And the last on the list is we're actually going to be running this as an unprivileged user by default on the live CD. The installer already gives you the option to add a user, and it will then run as that user as it should. Everything still functions properly, but the live CD is running as root by default just because it's so much easier for us like that.
Are you going to look at any tablets that are ARM-based, or?
Looks like I have a couple of seconds before Rick's going to kick me off the stage. So the way the ARM stuff is actually shaping up right now is I have very little intention to release a specific image for every device. But that actually means the opposite of what you think it means. I've been finding that running full Linux on an Android device, a tablet, a cell phone, whatever it is, sucks. The hardware support's just not there. The kernel patches never make it upstream. You're stuck running these weird custom kernels. And it's just awful. So what I found is instead of that, Gentoo has a project called Prefix, where you essentially take the entire system, you throw it into a directory called data Gentoo or whatever it is on an Android device, and then you run everything from that. It adjusts the paths so you're still typing ls, but it's calling it from data Gentoo bin ls. What that allows you to do is you can actually run a full-fledged Linux system without blowing Android off the device. So whatever the device is, if it's roughly Android-based or something like that, you can actually run a full-fledged Linux system right off of that without losing the ability to use your phone as a phone. I did all kinds of dev on the Nexus 7, an open device, a device that you're supposed to be able to do this with. We heavily modified all this stuff, and even like Ubuntu, who has all these paid developers from Canonical trying to get this stuff working, like the touchscreen driver was miserable. Just miserable. But the one on Android works great, so why not just open an Android terminal emulator, type start Pentoo, and then go ahead and do whatever you want to do, and it just plain works. So that's kind of the tack that I've been pushing with that, because from everything I've done, I find it just plain works better that way. We'll probably release a couple of images. I have a Chromebook I've been really enjoying. Basically the exact same thing, whether it's the same percent of the HP model. They're ARM devices. They get like 6 to 12 hours of battery life, lightweight, really nice toys. And they're meant to be running Linux. So running Linux on a BeagleBone Black or an Odroid, or these devices that are actually meant to run Linux, we'll probably release images for. The devices that are meant to run Android, the prefix stuff is just so much better. So that's how we've been pushing it. Any other questions? Good.
You mentioned things like patching the BCAP. Can you push those upstream to the main port upstream? Or I guess
as much as humanly possible. The Narcissism slide said that I'm also a Gentoo developer. Everything that I can get pushed upstream to Gentoo, I do. Everything that I can get pushed upstream all the way, I do. So that specific patch was written by somebody else. It was to add features specifically to what he needed. And we're currently in the assessment phase. My cohort Anton is actually on a pen test right now where he's using that stuff, and that's why it got added last week. The goal is to assess, is this patch necessary? Does this provide something good? And if it does, it's going to get pushed up to Gentoo, and then it's going to get pushed up to libpcap. Because honestly, a lot of people will write stuff and they'll give it out, and it just never goes anywhere because some upstreams you just have to pound on until they say, okay, we'll take your patch. And I'm not going to name names, but the libpcap and TCP guys have been like that more than a few times, and eventually things get there and it makes everybody happier. But yeah, as I said, open source sell it, I have to try. I can't always succeed, but I can always piss you off trying. Thank you very much. Now seriously stay, because this dude is awesome and he really knows what he's talking about. Except for the stupid stickers on his laptop. I don't know what